Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Abhimanyu Dayal here, and he has been in crypto for 10 years and 5 years in AI and does facial recognition or has worked on facial recognition and changing identities, which is very important for me because I like to support the anonymity and pseudo anonymity of my guests. And the key thing I have to figure out is how to not only do facial changing with AI. Actually, Riverside has a feature now where they giblify it, so they turn it into a ghibli. But the voice thing is the one that I think is the hardest right now because voice can still be doxed. Is that correct? Do you know?
Absolutely, mate. The voice, the facial. I mean, in general, any kind of a deterministic based
Oh,
password system probabilistic based password system doesn't really have a future in this Gen AI generation. So, what you need to be looking for any kind of a biomarker, you need to make it deterministic, right? So, deterministic means something that only you can know. Probabilistic is like facial recognition. So, for probabilistic systems work like what is the probability of my face matching the with the face or the hash which is stored in the system on a very simplified term, and that is the same thing for the voice. So with the Gen AI where the deep fakes are becoming as good as the real thing, even a 3D face can be printed off, can be used to fool the system. So I only believe in deterministic password systems.
so so uh, okay, so yeah, the Giblify from Riverside is a probabilistic thing where it takes my face and then probabilistically changes it to a Ghibli. And you're saying, did you say that that can be backtracked and doxed, or were you responding to like trying to build a system? What did you mean by password there?
Okay, so that can be backtracked with the help of AI in the future. We are not there yet, but at the speed that we are going, we already have like you can upload half an image and the AI is able to predict and create a full image, so it can expand the
Yeah,
pixels on the image.
yeah,
So when you are seeing technology like that and the prediction analysis based on the data is increasing and there is no limit to the data because of our social media activities, yeah, it can be backtracked in the future. Not right now, but maybe in the
yeah.
future. Yes.
And what did you mean by the deterministic password system? Why don't you like probabilistic password systems?
Sure. So I was thinking about, so when I worked on creating digital identities, one of the things we were doing is we were doing facial recognition from the password, from the passport, and then we were fetching out your data from the chip in the passport and then matching it. Now, the problem with that kind of a digital identity and why we ended up giving up the idea was when you create any kind of a facial recognition system or you create a digital ID or you create a password for a phone which is based on the probability, okay, what is the probability of the subject versus the image present inside
Mm,
the phone or a database? This kind of system is always going to have vulnerability. It won't be a foolproof system in the
got
Gen
it.
AI world.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, so when you type a password, that is the most secure form of password compared to the facial recognition and
Yeah,
stuff.
so
Yeah.
so our password system, which is currently in use and includes passwords, pass keys, all these different ways of doing it. And I remember it's the what you know, what you have, and who you are. Those are the three things. Of course, all of the centralized systems are trying to know who you are with the biometric because they're trying to get all the biometric details. Some because they're trying to do nefarious shit, and others just because like it is really easy to do it. Yeah, can you respond? What do you think about what I just said? Do you think that they're like the biometric? Because anything that goes on the internet is fundamentally insecure. What you just said to me is that deterministic is more secure than probabilistic, but
Yeah.
even deterministic, there's so many vulnerabilities. There's so many crazy things. What's your thought on all that?
100%, 100%. I completely agree with you. I think it should be illegal by law to store any kind of a biometric information. I think it is already in place in US. Like you cannot have a facial
Oh,
recognition and everything by law, like from a traffic
oh,
scan and public places. I think this should be a general law in the world. Like your biometric information is a part of your true identity, and there shouldn't be anybody allowed to store it. One of the most scariest things are these applications where you scan your face or you give your
WorldCoin.
face scan. Yeah, I mean, WorldCoin is still like done by a reputable company,
Oh,
but
okay.
in a partnership with the government and all of that. I'm talking about the TikTok applications, like which are being promoted on
Oh,
TikTok, like
oh
face
no.
swaps and everything. Oh my God,
Oh
they're horrible
no.
application. You're just basically feeding your entire facial data to them. And let me tell you, so I had a knowledge about a company based out of Canada that was doing insurance claim. And once you would make an application on the system, their agency on the back end would search for all the photos about you on the internet. And if you're wearing a glasses in any of your photos, they would increase your premium.
Oh man.
So
Okay.
we cannot
Whoa.
even believe the way we are being cheated by
Yeah,
the
yeah,
system.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if the
Yeah.
laws are same in Canada. If the company exists, I cannot take their name. But yeah, I was just horrified knowing that,
Yeah.
like, what
Well,
happens just by giving consent to your one single image on
not to
the
get too
internet.
political, but the United States just but there's laws against it probably for us as United citizens, but is now doing the same thing that you just mentioned. Canada is doing for all
Yeah,
of social media for any immigrant application. They require you now to basically open up your social media so that it's completely
yeah,
public with your face, with
yeah,
all those things. So the U.S. government's now doing that for other people,
yeah,
the immigrants and stuff like that, which is
yeah,
crazy. But that's in a completely different direction than I would have loved to talk to you about. And we could talk about that
yeah,
later. But I want to talk about treasure hunts. I'm going to give a presentation on Saturday to a bunch of students about agents, and I'm vibe coding. So I'm now not, I'm like pseudo technical. And so I can build solutions, and I want to take the skill and I want to vibe code some sort of treasure hunt. I'll present the idea, which I presented to you earlier, which is I want to create a QR code on the screen for my presentation, and then
yeah,
they'll all scan the QR code, and then that will lead them to something on their phones that will either be on the phone or maybe in their physical space that
yeah.
will then have one winner, and that one winner will have a free vibe coding course with me to learn how to vibe code through an NFT. With your knowledge of AI and crypto, where should I start? What's the simplest implementation I can do?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you would start with Replit. That would be the simplest
Okay.
place to start it.
Yeah.
The other place that you need to start is could be Claude. Claude
Okay.
could be really good. The subscription would be worth it. Or also you can use Chat LLM because Chat LLM with the $10 gives you subscription to all of the Chat GPTs, Gemini, and everything. So maybe you can start with that. If you want to wipe code this in CLS, then I think Claude
Wait, what is
CLS is
CLS?
probably the best. So
Command
it's
line
like
system.
coding
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's like basically coding in the terminal. So the problem with the systems right now was, or the generation one wipe coding platforms such as Cursor and Windsurf was, you were getting an error in your terminal, whereas the access of your code was there in the code repository side, right? So when you were making changes, the system was not able to see the code in the terminal, not run the application, so it would require the input from you. And there was a confusion, and that's why it would lead to data hallucination, and the whole thing would go in circles. So you would get into a loop of an error. Now,
Yeah.
CLS command line systems coding have kind of solved it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
Chat GPT started it. Cursor works really well, so I would request you that. But you don't need to make that complicated. What you need is Replit to start with, basically a single prompt. How would you generate a prompt? Just go on ChatGPT, plan everything out, or Gemini, plan everything out, cut, copy, paste it inside Replit with your requirement, and it would basically do everything for you. And then you can deploy it inside Replit as well. So that's the
So
best thing.
yeah, yeah, no, I definitely. So great tips. I'm beyond the point of where like so Claude Code. I can do Claude Code. I can do all those
Okay.
different things. I'm building like crazy systems on Claude Code. The key thing is, and I got a QR code generator. I actually went
Yeah.
in and built a local
Yeah.
QR generator because if I go on the internet, I go on the wild internet and I like use their systems. I get a bunch of malware inside the Chrome
Yeah.
browser. So I got the QR code generator. I would like to understand from you, like you actually showed me a game that you did before. What do you think, like just pure brainstorming, what do you think I should have them do in order to unlock the NFT? There the 10,
Ah,
20 people inside of a room, they can
sure.
do anything. What do you think?
might create a, like, if you want to do something like really easy, just create a quiz.
A
Like
quiz,
create
yes,
a
good. Okay, got
quiz.
it. Okay, I got it now. I got it now. Okay, yeah, like a Claude
Yeah.
code artifact. The QR code
Yeah.
leads to a Claude code, or sorry, Claude chat
Yeah.
window artifact that has a
Yeah.
quiz and that has got a
Yeah.
timer, and the first person to do
Yeah.
the quiz gets the NFT. Got it. Okay, app done.
Absolutely.
Finished. Yeah.
That's also be that's a good idea. I mean, you can get into gaming and then you have to create like a multiplayer game system. I mean, you can buy that game. It's just going to be expensive. It's going to cost you like $600-700.
Yeah. No, no,
There are
that's
companies and
that's
vendors
it.
to do that.
We figured it out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
vibe code it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now we can just talk about AI and all these other things. What are you most
Sure.
interested in right now?
Right now, I am interested in two different things. One, I am interested in like using AI for everyday tasks for
Yeah.
automation, like building
Mm.
automation product. And the second thing I'm interested in post-AGI labor market economics.
Ooh,
So
let's talk about that
yeah,
one. Yeah. What do you
yeah.
think?
Like, let me just give a quick background about myself. So, I have undergrad in banking and finance from University of Leicester and KU Leuven in Belgium. Then I have MSc in real estate investment. So,
What?
my degrees have been very bit have been like interdisciplinary between finance, maths, and economics. So
Mm.
this was always my passion, but I then went into Bitcoin because of the free market economics and libertarian ideas and everything. So that's how it landed me over there. So this was a question that was discussed with someone when I was still in college back in 2011. I asked a friend of mine, like, what do you think? And he said, like, look, the future is Bitcoin. So what would happen? And he said that, you know, what is going to happen is Bitcoin is going to be used for machine to machine or agent to agent transaction, because you
Ooh,
would
yeah.
have a multi-agentic systems up in
Yeah.
the cloud where the agents needs to communicate, and you need to create incentives, and it would be done in a multinational level. So these agents needs to communicate. So you would have like a full scale automation, and you can't have ASI, at least I believe AGI is achievable without these kind of system, but ASI would require something like that. Um, so the big problem is when machines are doing everything, what would happen to us? So I think the easiest approach is universal basic income. That the governments have to create a universal basic income, and they need to tax the money to pay it back to the people in form of a distributory income, and a very I it hurts me to say a very communist kind of a society would be born out of the AGI in post
Mm.
AGI labor market economics. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, this is the thing I go back and forth with. I'm generally not. I'm probably closer to you. I'm like libertarian. I'm now in Argentina. I'm not here because of Javier Milei, but I am very interested in Javier Milei. I've become a little bit more skeptical that he's true libertarian. But I'm pro freedom. I want freedom. And I want you know international freedom. I want like the limiting of force. I understand the necessity of force. I understand why it's used. I'm not a full libertarian, idealistic libertarian, but it definitely I'm very pro freedom. And so that being said, communism, collectivism, Marxism, I think all ideas below the line of integrity, particularly the way they've been implemented in the last 200 years, huge violations of human rights, murderous regimes, crazy things that have happened. But then I look into the future, or I try to look into the future, and it seems crazy. It seems like we're going to have so much abundance in a lot of different ways. Some of it sooner rather than later, a lot of it later rather than sooner. And I wonder in that part whether Marx was right, whether like 1,000 years from now, 500 years from now, was Marx right in terms like because he was a critic, right? Yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I have a wonderful answer for that. So the basic problem of the libertarian economics, and I definitely love Hayek. Hayek is my ideal, and I follow his lineage rather than Miesian or
Oh,
Rothbardian.
interesting.
So here's the thing, right? So Hayek used to say, economists should be telling the politician how little what they know, what they can design. Okay, so there should be a critique of the policy, because the whole idea was politicians do not have all the data.
Mm.
But
Yes.
now, what is happening with the advent of AI and everything is we are getting data. So,
Mm.
economics, which was a pseudoscience, which was a
Oh,
complete
interesting.
gibberish, depending on human action and praxeology, now you can create mathematical model and you can predict it. Like, for example, Facebook knows what kind of a shampoo I want, and it knows what kind of a hair product I would want now after this. So, because of this data, which people are not realizing, it is going to change fundamentally everything that we know about the society. It's because we are
Mm.
able to predict human beings. We were guessing before, now we are predicting down to their each and individual action. That's why,
Well, we have agents coming in.
yeah,
So prediction, very interesting points on prediction. Now we have enough data to turn economics into a science. That's definitely not something I've thought about before. And we have data, and we're able to predict agent level. And I love the difference between human agents and autonomous agents. But now we're able to predict humans pretty accurately in their desires and wants. What do you think about like things that are not able to predict? Is there anything that we don't have data for?
I think there would be a lot of things that we don't have data. Like one of the things is we do not understand the pressure for the human beings. Like we
Mm-hmm.
like to, everybody handles pressure in a different way. Some people perform really good in pressure. Some people do not perform that well. For example, the academic system, like judging the education in a single day of examination, right?
What
So
shit?
we cannot,
Yeah.
yeah, we cannot predict it right now. Few things about the human interaction, but as we are on a spree of collecting more data and we carry these devices, phone,
Yeah.
which are still not an IoT devices. I do not believe them as an IoT devices. But the next iteration, the glasses
Yeah.
that basically captures
Oh.
all of your movement and everything, your AR glasses that are coming, that would be the next transition of your cell phone. You would have so much data that I don't think so. Anything would be out of us free. And also, what we have to understand is the advent of quantum computers that would be coming in, right? So the permutation combinations that they can run. And now that you are connecting it with an AI model, so people were very well aware about like what the quantum future would be like, permutation and combination that it can run on a single compute level. But you connect it with LLM, like really powerful LLM system with a think and computational consciousness mathematical models. Wow, I don't think so. I think sky is the limit with a system like that. We need to completely change how we think economics wise, as well as how we think politically about the society uh, per se.
So great points. I want to go back to the fact that everybody's going to be walking around with glasses on their head, and I
Yeah.
just put it together with what you said about data collection and how right now that same thing, because you're talking about visual data, it's going to get thrown into the machine.
Yeah.
Billions of people putting their visual data, and it doesn't matter whether you or I decide not to wear them. It's the fact that everybody else is going to wear them that is the like what scary stuff. I want to talk about that given our conversation earlier. But that data thing is really interesting because now we have visual data. The key thing beforehand was everybody taking pictures. That's a lot of data that everybody's taking
Yeah.
pictures, uploading to TikTok videos, everything like that. But now it's going to be always on, and not only visual data, but voice data with things like the limitless pendant. I'm gonna build these things myself now that I can vibe code and I've got my Raspberry Pi. So I'm gonna start building. I'm never going to trust Facebook or anybody else, but I do. I'm not. I'm a realist, so I understand that everyone else is. A lot of other people are going to go into that enough to give these guys really insane power. So let's talk about freedom in that world. Are you an optimist or are you a cynic when it comes to these large companies determining who wins? Or not, no, not determining who wins. It's like determining who gets freedom. There's some question I can't ask right now that I don't understand how to ask about. I'm worried about a surveillance state future, and I want to do everything I can to remove that myself from that life. But everyone else is going to go into it. What do you think about that?
We are already living in a surveillance state. And one of the example is that a guy took Meta glasses, hacked it, and it started recognizing everyone in the campus because they just gave them an access to the meta
Whoa.
profile. So whatever person he would know
Whoa.
everything, what person likes. It's there on YouTube. Like it's very popular video. A
What
guy
is
took
the
like
name of that video? So I can
so
go
a
and find it.
guy hacked a Meta glasses and it has started recognizing everyone on the campus.
Okay. Recognizing everyone on the campus. Okay, so I'm gonna go find that video later. So, and that means he hacked into the glasses themselves, which are closed source. I imagine that they're not open source. I imagine that Meta is not
Yeah,
giving
I
it,
think he
but he
created an
jailbreaked it.
application
Oh,
or something inside it.
yes. And then that gave
Yeah.
him the access that I'm sure Meta has now patched and is now like not able to anybody else to do it. That is crazy. And the key thing that I
I mean,
wonder about my own, yeah, go for it.
like that is like still a very easy thing. Like what you need, a small camera, a glasses, attach it with a duct tape, have walk around the campus taking pictures, sending it to an Android application or streaming. So every time a screen is shared, it automatically records, takes a photo, snippets it, sends it to a
Yeah,
system where it
yeah.
reverse searches on Google Lens and then sends you all the information. So when you meet a girl, you can really stalk it as a guy, and a girl can stalk a guy can stalk a guy, and all of this is stalking cycle would know because we are already living in a surveillance state. Each and
Mm,
every moment of our is being captured. So the more we move away from IoT devices, I think that would be the only way possible, or open source, complete open source. Um,
And
yeah.
that's interesting because that brings in China, open source models. It's so interesting that China surprised me, surprised many people who come from Silicon Valley. All of a sudden, dropped these really powerful open source models. And I've talked with a lot of my friends. I'm a skeptic of the Chinese government, but I'm also very much a skeptic of the United States government now. And the Chinese government has released open source models, and I, being the skeptic I am, I think that China isn't doing that for open source philanthropy goals. They're doing it for other goals, some of which might be, more domination of the open source in the same way that Microsoft learned that they could dominate the open source model, that Google could dominate the open source model, and like there's various things that they can do. And so I like China's doing that, but there also just might be we need like what I'm trying to say is that this open source future is coming from China, not the place where I would have expected an open source future. Meta tried to do an open source future and then failed, and now is like buying all the talent from all the big open source from the companies. So that on the U.S. side, it's very closed source, but then China's just going to double down on the open source. Any analysis you have on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the open source works in two ways. One is the applications that they promote. So Quinn application and DeepSeek application that people were downloading on the phone is not open sourced. The model is
Oh,
open source. So they are low key promoting that and entering into the US devices where the massive
oh,
data is being stolen through a back entry doors and everything. Right. So that is point number one. Even their data systems have a hidden. So other thing is like if you promote your open source system and you become a standard, then you control the flow of information. So when you ask what happened in Tiananmen Square in 1989
yeah.
to DeepSeek R1 model or R2 model, it says nothing happened.
Mm,
So
this is
you are trying to do that. Yeah.
really interesting point on DeepSeek downloading onto the phones. Of course they're doing that. Of course they're going
Yeah.
into people's phones, and now like the
Because
same thing
people
I'm
are
sure
just
that
reading
happened on
half
TikTok.
information that they think, oh, the model is open source, but the application is not. So you
Yeah.
are just handing over all your data to the government to train it, to train the system to predict user behavior and what not they can do and what not they can even influence through the ads to your political behavior. They can change the access or how you consume information. They can change the tonalities of the model that you would be running on your devices. Yeah.
Man, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. It's such a crazy world we live in, but it's also kind of fun just like thinking of like how the ways we can manifest it. Because I think that in the information age, we as individuals and we as groups of individuals will have more power in comparison to nation states. nation states will remain very, very powerful, more powerful than any individual or group of individuals, although maybe the interconnection between the different freedom seeking groups might actually become representative of a thing that can counterposition against nation states. India, I would love to talk about India because I lived in India,
Yeah,
as we were discussing beforehand. I lived in
yeah.
Chandigarh. I instead of hiring out developers in India and trying to work remotely, I decided to go with my Indian business partner and my Brazilian business partner to go live in India, and all of that's out on the internet in a really interesting way. So I lived in India. I'm very optimistic of India.
Yeah.
Being the U.S. patriot that I am, I would love to see an alliance between India and the U.S. because I think, particularly given all the crazy stuff that's going on with China and Russia, feels like India is kind of more aligned with the United States. But now it's kind of like
Not
feeling,
anymore.
yeah, yeah, not as much.
No,
What do you think?
not anymore. Not
Not
anymore.
anymore
I
because
think,
of Trump.
yeah,
Is it because of Trump? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Trump
yeah,
cheated. I mean, India feels like Trump had cheated India. Like,
yeah,
um, like I don't know what's going on with Trump at the moment. Like the
yeah.
kind of tweets and everything.
Crazy
Well,
stuff.
you
Yeah,
can also understand.
yeah.
I think I can understand where the Trump is coming from because on the one side, India was the only country who was trying to become very close to Russia and United States.
Oh,
So the United States was like, what's going on? So I think there's where animosity is coming. So one side you say you are their friend, but what India is trying to do is like they don't want to be in under pressure of anyone. They if
they're
you are
trying to be
friends with
unlined.
two people,
They're
exactly.
trying to
If
be
you
unaligned in the same way that Gandhi kind of created this filter of like self-sustaining. I like autarky in a certain way. I like the fact
yeah
that like, and I think that's important for national goals. Is
yeah
that like that's during the Cold War, India was non-aligned, right? Like that was the whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a big mistake because that was the
Mm.
Nehru's policy of
Mm.
non-aligned and all of that. It was just like waste of time. Like bunch of
Mm.
loser nations coming together and creating all of that
Interesting.
nonsensical thing. It doesn't have any ground reality to all of
Yeah.
that. But the
Yeah.
thing with India was a very good Soviet alliance.
Oh,
It remained very loyal to each other. I mean, both were nations were playing with. America was on the side of Pakistan, and
yeah.
India was on the
Yeah.
side of
Yeah.
Soviet.
Yeah.
So because Soviet helped creating the Bangladesh because they stopped American warships to
Oh,
from
wait.
attacking India in 1971. Yeah.
1971, the
Yes.
India was helped by the USSR in terms of Bangladesh.
Yes.
Was there a war between
Yes.
Bangladesh and India?
Yes, there was a war of liberation between India and Pakistan that led to
Oh,
90,000 Pakistani soldiers surrender. So the whole point over there was there were two reasons United States didn't attack India. One, there was human right violation that was conducted by Pak army inside Bangladesh, and it was done on a massive scale. That if this information would have leaked, it would have
mm,
tarnished the reputation of United States for
mm,
actually
mm,
helping Pakistan or being a close ally of them. So, and the second thing itself was USSR deploying their nuclear warships in the Indian Oceans to kind of support India because all the time the world gets divided every
yeah,
time there's a war or something.
yeah,
Now, so India and USSR alliance goes for a very long time, and India is being selfish right now, like how every nation on the earth should, because
yeah.
they have a massive consumption. If this cheap oil doesn't come from Russia, then where
Oh,
does it come from? If it comes from Middle East, it would affect the balance
oh,
of trade. All the policies that Modi had in place, like I
whoa.
don't know many people realize, but India has completely transformed over the next last 10 and 11 years. Forget about the pictures that you are seeing on the road, but the middle class Indian, the lower middle class Indian, and the poor Indian, everybody is better off, much better
Yeah,
off
yeah,
than how the economy was 10 years ago, right? So
yeah.
they have a lot of policies such as food security and all of that. I mean, who is going to pay for it? It is being
Mm.
supported by domestic taxation, but the domestic taxation and the health of economy is maintained because India is buying cheap crude oil from Russia, refining it and selling all over the world since the Russian war
So
has started.
wait, there's a refinery business in India.
The, I mean, India is the biggest refiners in the world.
No way. Okay.
So do
Because
you know what is?
because the United States is
Imagine what's the
huge.
biggest
Yeah.
export of India. What is the biggest export of India at the moment?
Yeah. Let me think about it. IT,
No, it's petroleum.
petroleum. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a gas basically. India is one of the largest exporters of gas because they have
Oh,
the biggest.
interesting.
Reliance owns all the refineries. That's why Ambanis are the richest people in the world. They're not rich because of the cell phone. They're rich
Yeah,
because of the oil refineries.
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, so there's a deep connection with Russia, and so there's
yeah,
already an alliance in place with Russia
yeah.
and China. Well, like because I read a great tweet a couple days ago where somebody was like, Trump is the only one who could convince Russia, China, and India to become allies. Is that true? Do you think that's true? Like,
No, I don't think
no,
so.
yeah,
Because
particularly
because
China and India.
because
There's no way, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think so. Russia and China wants to be US alliance at the moment because it's a competition going on. It's a very
Yeah,
similar kind of competition which was before the First World War between the nation. I mean,
yeah,
First World War was already started. It just needed a spark, and
yeah.
that came in a form of the murder of a prince, right?
Franz,
So
yeah, Franz,
yeah,
yeah,
France Archduke, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it just came as a spark. So that's what is happening. They're just waiting for a spark, someone to make a mistake, and then the whole
But
thing can just
but
blast.
between
Everybody
China,
hates everyone. Yeah.
yeah, it's everyone. And this is in my world, in freedom world. I think it's a good
Yeah.
thing that all the nation states hate each other and there's no alliance,
Yeah.
formal alliance, and it's all anarchic. I think that's a good thing in the medium
That's a
to the long term.
competition.
Yeah, competition. Yep,
Competition.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. And this is why I like being down here in Argentina in the Southern Cone, is because Brazil, Argentina, and Chile are all like friendly, and there's no great game powers. There's no great hard power games. There are
Yeah.
great games in terms of soft power and intelligence and all these interesting things. And now it's really interesting because Argentina is probably in a similar position as India, compare in relationship to the United States, because the United
Yeah.
States did a lot of crazy things in Chile, Argentina, and Brazil during the 1960s and 1970s. Argentina was like this, like kind of like, we kind of like the Western. We are very European. We like the Western thing, but also, there's been things that have been done, and so there's a lot of soft power things. We could talk about I've been, we're now in the information age, and there are different principles related to the information age than there were to the industrial age. A lot of the industrial age stuff is still important, but we're now in the information age, and hard power works differently in the information age than it does in the industrial age. And so a very good example of that, and we've been talking geopolitically, and you have full publish rights. So we've been talking geopolitically. The big thing right now to make my point is that the information age is essentially the who has the most hard power and soft power in the information age. It's Israel. Israel has the most information age power. The best intelligence agencies, the craziest things, and so but their soft power, they've now lost their soft power. I was a huge supporter of Israel up until recently. Like, I'm not a big supporter of them anymore, and it's because of just like the clear lines that they're crossing in this great game hard power type of thing. But that's all up for debate. What do you think of that?
I mean, oh, I mean that's definitely a very important point. I think the country that has both hard power and soft power is only one country is there, that is America.
Yeah,
Rest of the country doesn't have it.
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
And they've
all
got
the
they've
other
got
countries they can.
the U.S. has, they have information age hard power and soft power, and they
Yeah,
have information age or
yeah.
industrial age hard power and soft power.
Uh,
Yeah, the
I
U.S.
mean,
is
one of
such an
the
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it is such an interest. Like India is like, I mean, we are aspirational hard power. We haven't
But
reached
soft
there,
power.
but
You have a lot of soft power. India has a lot of soft power, I would say.
we don't
No?
actually, because when the country is growing, everybody hates it, because
Uh,
developed countries do not like it, in terms, because they don't want competition.
yeah.
And your alliance, if they are poorer than you, then they become a soft power and they start pushing their agenda, try to make you look rich, because there is an attitude of hate the rich. I'm a
Mm,
very popularized post hippie culture in United
yeah.
States, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a hate the rich. So any nation that is doing good, everybody hates them.
Yeah.
So since India has started doing well, it has started losing its soft power rapidly. And then you have these all the socialists who combine together in different countries, and then they try to start propaganda against any
Yeah.
conservative government, because it's an ideology war
Yeah. Yeah.
rather
Yeah. Yeah.
than facts, right? So because we also have a conservative leader in place, so all of the, oh look, we are talking about the humanity, oh we are talking about the human rights, and all the nonsensical, because everybody is safe. Like I tell you, like, people do not understand. I lived in Europe for most of my life. Ah man, Europe changed over the
Yeah.
last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unsafe to walk on the road. People do not
Yeah.
realize India is not unsafe until you are
Yeah. Yeah.
looking and going to the places where even the Indians do not go. So
Yep.
it's a very difficult, and people would think like it's a rape capital and all of that, not even realizing what happens in pubs and clubs in London,
Yeah.
and what happens to the way people misbehave with the ladies over there. Yeah, I don't think people understand or get the full picture. But we are not a soft power because we are a growing economy, and with the age of social media, it's even more difficult to be a soft power. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. It's harder to be a soft power because there's this thing about integrity. Well, there's soft power in the information age happens very quickly. And so like Israel just lost a huge amount of soft power. It's not only with me. A lot of other people now think that Israel is not the greatest actor because of how quickly the information now spreads. So the United States is so interesting because the United States, do you think, as a third party perspective, do you think the United States is losing soft power or is gaining soft power right now?
Losing.
Losing.
Entire Western world is losing its soft power. I mean, they had a massive control. Like let me tell you, like, biggest example. You've been to Chandigarh, you've been to Punjab. You might be aware about what British Empire did in India, and they got
Yeah.
completely whitewashed of their crime. Like, nobody hates them. Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely not. We are people. What happened in the past is the past. Let's look forward to, and that's a general understanding that we have. We don't hate anybody here, but they were able to get, and they were able to convince the people that only the German Empire was the worst empire
Mm.
of the 20th century, whitewashing their crime. That was a soft power because they could do it. You
The
can't do
British
that
definitely had
anymore.
soft power.
Yeah.
So I've been reading this book called For Profit,
Yep.
about the rise of the corporation. One of the most interesting things I learned is that the corporation goes all the way back to Rome. So there's these things called the Societas Publicum, and it's where public, the name republic comes from this relationship between all these different things. But the corporation was really started in the UK, and it was really started once the crown of the UK gave the share thing to the East India Company, and then the first like 50 to 100 years of the East India Company was actually not trying to do war, was trying to only do economic stuff. But then somebody took over, and it was actually in Calcutta that's where there was the first real battle that the East India Company started, and that's when it started to shift, and all of a sudden it became a nation state, basically.
Yeah, I
Do you know
mean, you
much about
had,
this?
you had a first Anglo-Maratha war where British
Mm.
were defeated by Maratha because Marathas were weakened because there was a Maratha Mughal war, a Maratha
Oh, interesting.
Islamic war, and Maratha Afghan war, whatever you want to
Who
call.
were the Marathas?
So Marathas
Who
were
were? Yeah.
basically, they came to power after the Mughals in India.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Marathas were Hindus, Mughals were Muslims. So there was a, I mean, at a higher picture you can look at that, but the inside pictures were very different because the
Yeah. Yeah.
general on the Maratha side was a Muslim and general on the Mughal side was a Hindu in the
Whoa.
battle. But yeah, it is a complicated thing. We never had a religious issue for a very long time, but
Whoa.
what we have see is a counter reaction to the colonialism
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that that pushed the religious issue all over the world. Anyways, so we had that we had the Anglo-Maratha War, the first one, where British lost. Then we had a second Anglo-Maratha War where Anglo won, and then the company rule basically started in India. It has started. Actually, I also there's also one more thing which is not talked about quite a lot is America was built with Indian money. People won't understand it and they won't even think it because there's a theory for it. Because the British people who left, who took the wealth from India, not all the wealth went to London. It went to US as well.
Ooh.
They got settled down.
Yeah, no, this is
So,
interesting. Yeah, yeah, no, I know
so
the book that I was just went into that, and
yeah,
because the Boston Tea Party was all
yeah,
Indian tea, and it was all
yeah,
U.S. merchants who were getting
absolutely.
taxed by British. Go more into that.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
you know about the Opium War, right? What
Mm-hmm.
happened in the Opium War? So you had an Opium War, and after that, British realized we don't even need the Chinese tea, so they started growing a lot of tea in India.
Yeah.
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 So so they started growing a lot of tea in India. They started taking the tea, and a lot of wealth from India actually went to the United States, a lot of wealth
Mm.
because in the sheer contribution of the GDP at the Mughal Empire, the last Mughal Empire, India was 25% of the world's total GDP. It
Mm.
even surpassed China. I mean, for the first 1,000 years, it was the top economy, and then there was just a competition between India and China, but not in the sense that we have it right now because the borders were like really blurred.
Yeah.
So, but this region was really good, and yeah, and we had a reign of wealth in two different directions: one in Europe, other in America.
This is a great segue into our last like 10 minutes or so
Yeah,
about the information age. The sort of thread that I've been unweaving is related to the information age being really, really similar to the financialization of everything. And this could go into crypto. It's like what you just discussed was the first corporation. Instead of governing a nation state, it essentially created the nation state of India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And then all the wealth kind of like sucked out of it. There was investment back into it, but like the international capital flows going to London and then the US and setting up the US. China having all the silver basically also funneling out through the Philippines and then to Spain and all these different things. So that's like our future is international capital flows. But now capital is related to gold, but is also funny money. It's just like magic internet money, right? Like, can you talk about more about your vision of where crypto is going over the next 5 to 10 years and how all this stuff is going to happen?
man, I'm like really not sure how to describe the future of crypto. I just
Yeah,
don't like what's going on over there. People are celebrating these ETFs and all of that.
yeah,
I think that's completely nonsensical. They're not around what Satoshi meant by money. When
yeah,
you have to give your Bitcoin to someone and trade on an
yeah,
ETF,
yeah.
what purpose does a Bitcoin serve over there? The Bitcoin was supposed to be the money of the people, by the people, for the people.
Mm,
And you should be able to control it in your pocket with your private key. So I do not like the institutionalization of Bitcoin, but the investors like it because they are not there for philosophy. Anybody who says that they are there they are just lying. They're in it for the money and the capital gains that money can do, and the example it sets what happens if a money is determined by the market rather than a politician's pen of inflationary and fake inflationary and deflationary money. So that is really good, but I do not like the direction in which it's going. But I can say this with confidence because I know how the money markets work because of my background in finance and how financial institution money flows. If they see an opportunity to make money, they'll make money. So I would see this Bitcoin becoming a reserve of some central bank in the future, held alongside with the
yeah,
gold
yeah.
and acting as an independent money. So, because of the recent Trump's policy, he's able to piss off both EU and India and China and Russia and all over the world. So we might see a sort of detachment from a dollar as central banks would start holding some cryptocurrencies, some Bitcoin as of now. I think Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that works, honestly, as a reserve, as a hedge against the international policies that can take place. Because it's a
So
war of policies now. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, there's no brick currency. There's no brick currency that they could give to counter position against Bitcoin. Maybe they could try to figure out something, but Bitcoin feels like that. Figma just bought a giant amount of Bitcoin in before their IPO, which they probably
Yeah.
which is crazy. That like they brought a giant amount of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and so it is becoming a treasury. It already is a treasury inside of Tesla. It's now becoming a treasury to the United States, but there's some crazy stuff which we could talk about for the last 5 minutes. Is the stable coin. The U.S. now, so in 2021, China stopped mining from the United States, which seems like a giant own goal on them, and it all decentralized to the rest of the world. So now Bitcoin mining is decentralized. But the U.S. now recognizes that it's a way both to hedge against our own inflation uh, and also use it as a weapon. This is a great question for you. Is the United States using stable coins with all the stuff that we just talked about as a weapon? And if so, how?
I mean, the stablecoin based out of dollar means the power is dollar. The
Mm-hmm.
monetary and physical policies is still linked to dollar, and they have a monopoly of printing out. So, United States is a country that is in the position that it prints its own debt.
Yep.
So if I want to borrow you, I borrow in your currency and then I can just give you a dollar in return and I can just keep on printing and giving dollar. So they should have the stable coin. They should push more stable coin because the stable coin means more dollar coming in and replacing the real
Yep.
cryptocurrencies, the real
Yep.
free market money out of the market. Uh, the BRICS, talking about BRICS, there's no unity between BRICS
Yep.
until India, Russia, and China becomes a very close ally, which is very difficult because of what India did. They supported Tibet, and that really pissed China off. And then there was a war, uh, and that led to all the nonsensical thing that if India and China becomes a big alliance and Russia, there can be a hope of having a BRIC currency. But right now, there is no unity between BRICS. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
only united country is Russia, right? Russia is friends with both India and China, and India and China have a massive animosity. Even China supported Pakistan in the recent war with India that happened a couple of
Whoa.
months ago. Yeah. All the
Whoa.
equipments were provided by China. Yeah. All the data, equipment, everything was provided by China. So there's definitely no unity. And India is super pissed about it.
Man, so crazy. Well, thank you so much for vibing and doing a little jazz improv with me. How can our listeners find out more about you?
They can just follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Abhimanyu Dayal. They can come on LinkedIn, follow me over there. I would be available. They can ask me any question. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you so much.